Bevakasha. Erev Tov and Chodesh Tov. It's the Rosh Chodesh Elul, the beginning of the month of the Hebrew month of Elul, the Elul Chodesh Harachamim V'Aslichot, the month of mercy and forgiveness. And there is definitely no better time that we have, that we need this type of period of time in our lives than now. And it goes without saying, we spoke about it before the recording. We'll speak about it now also. Just for, just you can't go by without relating to the situation of the six hostages that were murdered in cold blood at point blank zero, literally. Right before the soldiers arrived in order to go into to capture the terrorists. And this is something that we have to go and we have to remind ourselves the words of the Rebbe in regard to the fact that it is forbidden to go and to negotiate with terrorists. It's forbidden to go and to even speak with them, and how much more so to go and to send them any type of humanitarian assistance, because this shows that they are the boss. This shows, Kavyochol, Rahman Litzlan, Hashem should watch over us, that they're in charge, that we have to dance and sing according to their tune. And therefore, we have to show our assertiveness, and we have to show the fact that this, what we need and what we demand and what we require is what has to be done, to go and to totally remove the hanhoga, the leadership, and all those that participate in the leadership in the terrorist regime of the Hamas, Yimach Shemam Zichram, and then to go and to make sure that we have like the Rebbe says, a buffer zone, so that there should not be such a situation that people can just cross a gate and they're in Eretz Yisrael, they're in the settled holy land of Israel. Doesn't happen. It shouldn't happen. This is what the Rebbe was speaking about when they made the peace treaty, and again in inverted commas, with Egypt, that we gave over the entire Sinai desert. And the Rebbe said this was a protective buffer zone in order to make sure that October 7th, God forbid, shouldn't occur. And this is what we have to do, not only in the south, but also in the north, and we have to do it also in Yehuda and Shomron, in Judah and Samaria, because people cannot live with these types of threats. It's impossible. Yeah. All the bombs that they uncovered, bomb laboratories in Judah and Samaria. How can a person go and live a regular life with the car rammings? You can't stand at a bus stop in Judah and Samaria and have a tranquil mind while you're waiting for the bus. Where has such a thing been heard in any place in the world? And this is something that the Rebbe stresses, that cannot continue. It has to stop, and we have to do what we have to do. And when we show that we are strong, the Rebbe says it's the other way around. The United States then respects us, then gives us the honor that is meant to be given, and then they see that they have a strong partner in the Middle East. But otherwise, if we go and show that we are weak, chas v'shalom, and that we're not strong enough to handle our situation and to be straight about it, and instead we're wish-washy, so that's exactly what we get, the reflection back from the United States, that they're worse than wish-washy. Hashem should watch over us. Anyway, tonight's story, beginning with the like we said, we're in the Rosh Chodesh Elul. The king is in the field, Baruch Hashem, and we're in the 40 days of preparation. 29 days before Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year, and 40 days before Yom Kippur. So we go to France, and we go to a Shliach in France. Actually, he is right next to the Charles de Gaulle Airport in a place called Goussainville in France. His name is Rabbi David Chaviv. Rabbi David Chaviv, as a young bacher, as a young Talmudic Academy student, he already was working in Shlichut, going and doing the work of the Rebbe. One of the major things that he did was he would put tefillin on with Jews, and at that time he was working. He was a shliach in the city of Sarcelles. And in Sarcelles, there were many Jews that he put tefillin on with, and together with this, there was one particular Jew. Let's for the matter of the story, we'll call this the Jew Chaim. And he would from time to time, from week to week, when he met him, he would put tefillin on with him. And he was a very warm Jew, who actually, Rahman Litzlan, as warm as a Jew was, but in France, people are known to lose their direction, and this Chaim was living with a non-Jewish woman. After a certain amount of time, so Chaim comes to David Chaviv comes to put tefillin on again with this Chaim, and Chaim tells him, "Listen, I'm getting married." He said, "Getting married with who?" He said, "With the woman that I'm living with the non-Jewish woman." So David said, "It's impossible. It's terrible. It's something that is not permissible. The Torah says that it's something that it is not only forbidden, but the reasoning behind it is that these people, the non-Jews, will go and take our children and make them not Jewish." Because if a child is born from a non-Jewish woman, so the child goes after the mother. And David Chaviv was very startled, and he every time after that, when he put tefillin on with Chaim, so he mentioned, and while he was putting on tefillin, how terrible it is to marry a non-Jewish woman, and how it brings about the discontinuation of the Jewish nation, because all his children from this woman will not be Jewish. And one day, Rav David finds himself traveling to the Rebbe, to 770 in Brooklyn, in Eastern Parkway, and it was at the end of a very late Farbrengen, was maybe like 4 o'clock in the morning. And Rav David tells that he went upstairs to the door that leads to the door to the Rebbe's room. And he was standing outside the door of what's called Gan Eden HaTachton, the lower Garden of Eden. And he was thinking and asking the Rebbe for an answer as to what to do with this Chaim that's apparently getting married with a not Jewish woman. And as he's thinking about the request from the Rebbe to give him the blessing and advice for Chaim, so from behind comes another Shliach from the city of Bologna, Italy, and he turns to Chaim, and he sees Chaim's in a very deep contemplation. He says, "Is everything okay?" And Chaim saw this as an opening to go and to tell this more veteran Shliach all about the story of Chaim. He told him the whole story, and he asked him what should he do. And the Shliach from Bologna told him that every day that David puts tefillin on with this Jew is another day that will be disconnecting him, that will be removing him from his connection with the non-Jewish woman. Wow. He was very excited, and especially since he understood that this is a blessing and advice that was sent through the Shliach, through the emissary from Bologna, from the Rebbe, because he was praying, and who shows up at 4 o'clock in the morning at the door, at the Rebbe's door? Anyway, David went back to Eretz Yisrael, and excuse me, not Eretz Yisrael, back to France, Sarcelles, and he started putting tefillin again with different people, and also with with Chaim. And he started to put tefillin on with Chaim instead of once a week when he would meet him. He went out of his way, David, because he felt it was an instruction from the Rebbe. He went out of his way to find Chaim on a daily basis. In other words, he made sure that Chaim would put on tefillin every day, with no skips in the middle. After 2 years that he was putting tefillin on with this Chaim, so Chaim says, "Listen, you're coming every day and you're going out of your way to put tefillin on me and so on. I already know how to put on tefillin on my own. All I need is a pair of tefillin." And so he turned to David and he said, would you buy me a pair of tefillin? I'll pay for it. And Rav David said, definitely, no question. He was excited about the whole matter. And at this point, Rav David brought a pair of tefillin. Chaim paid for it, and 2 weeks, only 2 weeks passed after Chaim was putting on tefillin by himself with his own tefillin that he just purchased, and David Chaviv meets him on his weekly route, and he tells David, listen, Chaim tells David, I have good news for you. He says, what's the good news? He says, I'm leaving the Goya. I'm leaving the non-Jewish woman. Wow, this was pulverizing news for David Chaviv, because he understood that this is exactly the blessing and the advice that the Rebbe gave him through the Shliach from Bologna, from Italy. And this actually not only was the blessing and advice, but he merited to see the blessing and advice come to fruition. 2 years after he was putting on tefillin with Chaim every day, he ordered a pair of tefillin for himself. And 2 weeks after he was putting tefillin on by himself, he decided to go and to leave the non-Jewish woman. Great. Then David Chaviv goes on to say that a short period of time goes by, and not only did he leave the non-Jewish woman, but he met a Jewish young lady, and they decided to get married. Great, that's what could be more grand. On the day of the wedding, so David Chaviv came, and he said he suggested to the Chosen, to Chaim, that he write a letter to the Rebbe in honor of the wedding, and also in honor of how to continue his spiritual life of Torah and mitzvahs. They wrote into the Igros Kodesh, and the Rebbe gave an incredible letter, a letter filled with blessings for obviously for the wedding. But together with the blessings, the Rebbe points out a specific mitzvah, the mitzvah of Shabbos. And Chaim looks at David, it's the day of his wedding, he says, Shabbos? I really don't know anything about Shabbos. What are you supposed to do on Shabbos? How are you supposed to go about observing Shabbos? Well, the marriage was held, And then David understood, he doesn't know about anything about Shabbos. We got to invite him over to our house. He was already married by this time. Invite him over in order to go into experience the Shabbos. And so the time went by. They were coming back and forth, and they started to observe Shabbos. They learned about Shabbos. They started to observe Shabbos. Then David on a phone call, because he was already in his new place of Shlichus, apparently in Gussenville. So he calls up. He kept tabs with Chaim. He calls up Chaim and he asks him, how are things going? He says, okay, I'm putting tefillin on every day, and once a week we keep Shabbos. What else is there? So David Chaviv says, listen, do you know anything about family purity? Taras HaMishpacha? He says, I have no idea. If you explain it to me, so I'll try to understand. And David explained to him. He got both of them on the line on the phone, and he explained to them in brief what's involved in family purity. And at that point, they decided they're going to keep family purity. They started to keep Taras HaMishpacha. Obviously, they continue to learn more details, and 2 years later, they already had a son and a daughter. Baruch Hashem. Unbelievable. This is exactly what we have to understand. When we go and we are in a situation, any type of situation, the Rebbe is continuously here by our side, and the Rebbe is waiting. He's not, it's not that, if you want, you can. If you don't want, you don't have to. The Rebbe is literally waiting for us to go and to ask for his blessing, for his advice. In any type of situation, any field of life, whether it's the family life that we just heard, marriage, children, if it's matters of health, if it's matters that are connected to livelihood, parnasa, the Rebbe is there for us. He's waiting for us, and he's there in order to go and to give the blessing and advice. And as we go and we have the belief and the trust in Hashem, and then the Rebbe being the Moshe Rabbeinu, the Moshe Rabbeinu of our generation, so we know that when we receive the blessing, when we receive the advice, and we follow up on the advice and blessing, so we see results. And Yehi Rotzein, maybe Hashem's will, that we should see the results of speaking about the Moshe Rabbeinu of our generation, and especially in this week's parasha, in this week's Dvar Malchus of Shoftim, on the 7th of Elul, the Rebbe comes and the Rebbe says that we should publicize to all the generation that Hashem has appointed a Shiftayich and Yoatzayich. He has appointed a judge and an advisor for the entire generation, and this is the Moshiach of the generation, in order to go and to bring about. And the Rebbe says immediately now the revelation of Hine ze Moshiach ba, behold, Moshiach has already arrived. And may it be Teichif u'miyad mamash. Yechi Adoneinu Moreinu v'Rabbeinu HaMelech Ha'Moshiach Chai v'Kayam le'olam voed. By the way, it's in continuation to what we mentioned last week, that we should publicize that there is a prophet in Israel, that the Hashem has restored the power of prophecy and a prophet for the generation. This is the Moshiach of the generation. This is the Rebbe Shlita Melech Ha'Moshiach. Chi Adoneinu Moreinu v'Rabbeinu HaMelech Ha'Moshiach Chai v'Kayam le'olam voed. Amen.